Good morning. When we plotted our earthquakes on our maps, you might have wondered why there's an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. How did anybody know that that's where it happened? It turns out you don't have to be there. You can use indirect evidence to figure out where it was. And that's using earthquake waves. And, well, I'll just show you how. Earthquake waves they come in a couple of flavors. There's the primary waves, the secondary waves, and the surface waves. And the primary waves travel faster than the secondary waves. So the farther an earthquake is away from you, the farther apart the primary and the secondary waves are. The primary wave just keeps leaving the secondary wave further and further behind. And over thousands of earthquakes, geologists have plotted out this curve. And this curve is how far behind the secondary wave will be from the primary wave. This is the time on this axis, and this is the distance on this axis. So if you were 3,000 kilometers away from the earthquake, the two waves would be about 4.5 minutes apart. If you were 5,000 kilometers away, the two waves would be about 6 minutes and 40 seconds apart. So we can use that when an earthquake goes off. All around the world, there are seismographs that record it. And they record the P wave going by, and then they record the S wave going by. And you can measure the time interval between the two. And we'll use that to find an earthquake, and here's how. I'm going to use this as an example. I just wrote New York, New York. That's our city. The seismograph there recorded the two waves as being 3 minutes and 10 seconds apart. So we go down to this chart, and this is the time on this axis. 3 minutes is right there. Each little line is 20 seconds, because it goes 20 seconds, 40 seconds, and then 60 seconds would be a minute. So 3 minutes and 10 seconds would be halfway between this line and this line right there. And I'm going to draw a line across straight as I can until I hit the data line. And then I'm going to drop straight down and see how far away that earthquake was. This goes from 0 to 1,000, has 5 lines, so each of these little lines would be 200. And it looks like we're about halfway between 800 and or 1,800 and 2,000. So I'm going to say that that's about 1,900 kilometers away. And I'll put my answer in this data box. Now, I know it was 1,900 kilometers from New York. Where is that on the map? Well, I have to look at the scale of the map. 1,900 kilometers, there's 1,000, 1,100, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 1,900 would be right there. So I know it's that far from New York. So I'll set a compass to that radius. And these are called safety compasses, and you can use the other ones if you want, but these work pretty well for it. But they're a little bit weird. You measure, you put this little brass circle on the 0, right there on the 0, and then I turn it and find which hole lines up perfectly with the mark I made on my scale. Now neither of those are both close, but neither one is perfect. So I'm going to look at this side, and I think that one is perfect. So I'm going to stick my pencil in there and spin this around so that the little brass circle that I marked as the 0 is on New York City, and then I draw my circle. Now it goes off the map, but that's okay. I know that earthquake occurred somewhere on that circle, because every point on that circle is 1,900 kilometers from New York City. Now it could have been here, could have been here, could have been here, could have been here, could have been here. There's an infinite number of points on a circle. But if when I plot this city, 1 minute 10 seconds. At this city, Houston, 1 minute 50. And when I plot Denver, I'm going to get a series of circles, and I'm just going to make this stuff up. I'm not going to go through it all, but let's say Denver is that distance, and I know it's that far from Denver. Now I know there's only 2 points on the planet that are this far from Denver and this far from New York City, and that's there and right there. And then I call a third station, and maybe it's Miami, and I find out that it's this far from Miami. And now there's only one place on the planet that is this far from Miami, this far from Denver, and this far from New York City. And that would be where all those 3 come together, and that's where my earthquake was. And that's how they do it. That's how they figure out where earthquakes are. Now, they may use 20 different stations and get confirmations, but all of those circles will intersect at the epicenter of that earthquake. Now you try.